70% of family wealth won't make it past one generation, and then 90% won't make it past three. The majority of that is not financial. Most of that is relational.
There's things you can do financially that are great tax planning, but if you don't consider the relationship, those plans can really set the family up for failure. They can be great tax plans, but it can be a really bad family plan.
If you had a relative that was a hoarder, it would be visibly easy to see. But how many times with these builders do we find in a way they're financial hoarders, but it's not as easy to see?
A lot of times the gaps are not a financial cost, it's more in the relational cost. Families sometimes don't want to go there. Things are good on the surface. We just don't think about or deal with. Everything's going to still be okay. Most people will say, that is not what I thought happened. Or, oh my gosh, that's not what I want to have happen.
What's the number one myth?
That I can do it the best and that I have to control everything. The control is probably the biggest thing. Hard conversations are where growth happens. When a child is heard for maybe the first time in a while, it immediately builds trust. It brings a lot of movement forward in the relationship and in the family. Planning can be really fun. It's very empowering and it can be joyful.
This is about clarity and certainty, empowerment.
If you feel behind, you're not.
All right, I'm so excited today. I've got my chief planning strategist, Dani Wauchope, here with me, and we're really just kind of talking about, how do you think about planning, especially when our real passion is aligning capital with a 100-year family vision. Having a plan for that really matters. So, Dani, let's just start with, how would you describe your role here at Paradiem and the work that you get to do?
Yeah, so first of all, I love what I get to do, and I can't imagine myself doing anything different. I basically get to help families get clear on what they feel called to do, and then figure out the best path forward to make that happen. So helping them get clarity and then figuring out the right tools and strategies and techniques to bring into the plan, and then how to put it together, how to get it implemented, work with their other advisors, and bring collaboration among the whole team. It's really fun to get to work with advisors, help the families figure out what they want to do, and then ultimately get a plan in place that matches their goals and intentions.
So when a family comes in, someone who's like ready to do this kind of work, because this is not halfway work, what do you find that they're usually feeling? What are they missing? What's kind of typically their mindset when that happens?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times they're feeling maybe a little bit stuck, or that they're the ones that have to figure it all out. And that's one of the things that I love about the way that we work is it's not up to the client to bring all of the advisors together. That's one of the things that we do. And so being able to just pull everyone together and kind of give them a sense of we've got this, we'll take care of it, we'll help you, and then seeing the piece that comes to them as we walk through the process. That's probably one of the feelings that they have.
So when we're looking at, helping people align capital with a 100-year vision, I think that's a little bit different than, a lot of times that word planning. I feel like sometimes the word planning gets stuck in the same word as like when you use the word budget. People are like, no, I don't want to do that. I'd a whole lot rather do something else. So when the word planning comes up for you, what does that mean? Yeah,
I feel like it's hard to describe. So like saying, I don't ever say I'm like a financial planner, because it's so much more than that. And so it's basically putting some things in place to get you where you want to go. So yes, it's a plan, but the thing that I love about it is that things change. Your families change. Your children get older. They mature. Like things happen. And so I see a plan as like a living, breathing organism that changes and evolves over time. And so whenever we talk about planning, it's not like we're setting this plan in place like a budget. You can't blow it. You can't change it. It's set. The thing with planning is we're looking at things, and yes, we're looking in this longer horizon. And so we're doing things today, and then we adjust as we go forward.
But when you think about strategic planning, you're thinking about planning a family's life or their children, or even thinking for generations. How does thinking with that type of vision differ than just like we're managing money or we're thinking about investments or we're like, how is that different?
Yeah, it's really just the mindset and the approach and then the questions that we ask to help them really get clear on the 100-year vision and what God is calling them to. And so there's things that like there's decisions you make today that can impact those 100 years. And so helping them just see beyond the here and now to what could be, I think that's part of what we do and how we help them look at that 100-year vision.
I think part of this too comes down to, families are complicated, dynamics come in. So many, I think it's kind of funny because one of the things that you really emphasize is getting a husband and wife to work together. Many times a husband will be, or not just husbands, but there'll be one spouse who's really, really kind of spreadsheet or money or structure minded, and another one who is maybe more relationally minded. Talk to that a little bit about how those come together, how values kind of sit on top of that, and why both of those inputs get to be important as we kind of think about putting together a plan.
Yeah, it is extremely important to have both the husband and wife involved. The one who likes the money and likes making all those decisions, and the one that tends to focus on the relationships. They're both very important because if you just take one perspective, you could get completely different plans that would be not good for the family. Like if you're just looking at the financial, a lot of times there's things you can do financially and there's financial decisions you can set up that are great tax planning, they're great financial planning. But if you don't consider the relationships and how people interact together, then those plans can really set the family up for failure. They can be great tax plans, but it can be a really bad family plan. And so that's why we'd like to bring both spouses in. We have conversations together. We hear both of their hearts behind things. And then from that, getting them aligned on what they want to do. That's another thing that I feel like happens a lot. If like one spouse wants to do this for the kids and the other wants to do something completely different. And so it's helping them get alignment before any decisions are made and before any plans get in place, having them get on the same page because their different perspectives really are important for the best possible outcomes for their family.
Yeah, and I think that, our experience over the years and things that I've heard you say and reflect on, like we talk about why families drift without even realizing it, especially inside of their plans, is how many times that money-minded person has simply wanted to just get the plan done. But when you start looking at what we kind of term the unintended consequences that sit around that relationally, that comes up, and I'll let you talk about that more. But what other types of drifts have you seen, especially when you've got two, I guess you'd say, I don't know, it's capital personalities coming at how we think about it?
Yeah, I think a lot of times that person tends to want to, as you said, get things done. They want to cross it off the list. They want to just make it. They want to get their plan in place. They want to do it quickly without taking into account how the relationships are going. And I can think of one situation where the dad said to us, "Man, I really thought we'd be a lot further along than where we are today. When I look back at where we came from, I thought we'd be much further along." And that's the hard part about relationships and family, is that sometimes you take 5 steps forward and then take a couple steps back.
Yeah.
Because you can't control the other people in your family. You can encourage and uplift and build them up, but you can't control how they're going to respond to things. And so we just have to adjust. And with that family, we said, look at how far you've come. And so we went back to, this was what the first family meeting was like. And look at what today is like. It's completely different. And he was like, oh, wow. When you put it that way, there has been a lot of growth. And so it's just in seeing the growth sometimes that is harder to see. He's definitely the capital person in the family. Yeah, there's a lot of growth that happens.
So I think we're talking around it a little bit, and we don't need to expose any families or get into specifics, but like, what are some of the tensions that either come up between spouses or even between generations? So like mom and dad or the next generation that's got, what are some of the tensions that you see inside of that definitely have to have intention and focus put on them as you're building kind of generational type planning?
Yeah. So a lot of times the value and the view of money is different sometimes between spouses, depending on how they were raised. But oftentimes it happens between generations. And we've seen some Gen 2 or Gen 3 that kind of resent the money or think it was, oh, that's my parents. Like they don't want to be judged or seen as being a wealthy child. They want to be seen as like a normal person, you know. But then a lot of times too, between spouses, we see just hard. I think it's hard sometimes, the conversations, because one wants things simple, totally simple. I don't like complicated. And the husband is a builder and he is entrepreneur and he's wired completely different and he wants to just build, and with building a lot of times comes complexity.
Yeah.
And so those things can be really hard. But then what's really cool is over time seeing how the builder is noticing, wow, this really is causing stress to my wife. And I will make a deal with you and I'm going to begin to simplify at this point. And so by this point, this many years down the road, we're going to have things much simpler. And seeing how those conversations kind of happen and being able to be a part of those is really kind of fun, to be able to see the changes happening and then the peace that comes with the wife in that situation. I'm thinking of getting things more simplified.
I just had a thought. This may be a little silly, but you know, if you had a relative that was a hoarder, it would be visibly easy to see. It would be, the evidence would be there. But how many times with these builders do we find, in a way, they're financial hoarders of creating more and more businesses or more complexity or more investments, that they're, in a different sense, kind of being that financial hoarder. And you know, but it's not as easy to see. It's not something that just becomes obvious to the eye.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it.
When you've looked at this and these gaps, like we talk about this, like how do we align capital for a 100-year vision, and really thinking about that, what does this misalignment, these misunderstandings, these gaps, what have you seen that cost families long term?
A lot of times the gaps are it's not a financial cost, it's more in the relational cost. And so when there's pieces missing, or the relationships tend to suffer a lot of times when things are not done in a good way, or in a holistic, family included, family and financial, like bringing them both together. If you just think of the finance stuff, a lot of times the relationships will end up suffering a little bit.
No, a lot of people have heard the statistics of, like, what is it, 70% of family wealth won't make it past one generation, and then 90% won't make it past three, right? Would you agree with the statement that the majority of that is not financial? Most of that is relational, and it has to do with these gaps we've been talking about?
Yeah, definitely. That definitely is it's the relational side of things that causes that. Because if you can have a great tax and financial plan, that will go for generations, and that's easy to do. But the relational side is where a lot more of the work comes in. And you have to be intentional with that in order to pair that with the financial side.
I want to talk a little bit about more of that just for a second, because I would think that most teams, most people who partner with the family, that this would be a territory that maybe even families are resistant to go into, but even the professionals are reluctant to kind of get into. Talk about both sides of that coin and what you've seen, and maybe even why it's hard, but also why it's worth it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it from both sides. The advisors not wanting to go into it because families can be messy, and you don't know what you're going to walk into. You may have an idea. It may be completely different than what you thought you were going to walk into. But families sometimes don't want to go there either, because things are good on the surface. Everyone's getting along. There may be some things under the surface that if we just don't think about or deal with, everything's gonna still be okay. And so sometimes it does get messy. sometimes you have to have the hard conversations, but hard conversations are where growth happens. And so when we see families like really dig in and want to grow, these families can be great families and they're already thriving. And whenever they dig in and go deeper and focus on these things and are intentional about these things, we see them go like beyond where they thought they would be. And the relationships just continue to get stronger and the communication is better and things are just better.
Yeah.
All around. It's hard and it's work, but it's better.
We keep talking about, our concept and our passion for helping families architect capital for 100+ years. So we have developed, and I think your team really works on our 100-year family architecture process. Mm-hmm. But that starts with something we call the abundance and impact map. And I want to spend just a little bit of time kind of visiting that because that's really is kind of the anchor starting point. So on a high level, what is the abundance and impact map as part of that process?
Yeah, the abundance and impact map is really just our way to get in there and see what's in place, to see where you're at today, to get us a snapshot of this is where you stand today financially, where you stand relationally, and then also to begin uncovering what is it that you feel called to do? What are your goals and intentions for your finances, for your family, for inheritance, for your own fun things you want to do, for your charitable giving? What does that look like? And then where do you stand today against all of those goals and intentions? So we help you create a list of goals and intentions, and then we look at where things are today. What are the gaps? So it's kind of like a gap analysis where we're looking at and then what the cost is. So if these are the gaps, this is where you say you want to go. This is where you're missing it. And if you don't do anything, this is what the cost would be sometimes it's a financial cost, sometimes it's a relational cost. It just depends on whatever the goals are and where you're at today. But then at the end of that, there's a clear path forward to determine, okay, this is where you're at today. This is where you want to go. We can get you to where you want to go. And so that's what the abundance and impact map will show, is how to get to where you've got all of your goals and intentions accomplished and everything is aligned and things are where you want it to be. And you're having that 100-year legacy and they're carrying on for 100 years.
I mean, it sounds like an amazing tool. Why did you build it? What was the purpose and thought behind why something like that was necessary?
Yeah. So our process used to be a little bit longer to get to this point. But what we found is people really want to see a quick high level, where are we today and where can we go? And so we built it so that we could show families on a quick result of this is where you want to be and this is where you're at today. And so it's a lot faster. We don't make money off of it because it's a bit of work, but it's a lot of, but really just kind of getting someone in the door to see where they are and where they could be, and then helping them dream and vision for the next 100 years. What,
I can already hear some of the people who might be listening right now is like, oh, no, I've worked on my plan. It's good. What would you say to that person who's like reluctant to step in and do a map? Who's like, oh, no, my plan is good.
Yeah, we hear that a lot of times. But one of the things that we do in this process, in the map process, is we read through legal documents. We put a balance sheet to the legal documents and show a picture of a flow chart of what happens when you were to pass away, like when the husband passes, when the wife passes, what does it look like? And I would say like 90% of the time, most people will say, that is not what I thought happened.
Yeah.
Or, oh my gosh, that's not what I want to have happen.
Yeah.
I would say there's been maybe like one or two families that I worked on in the past 19 years that knew what their plan was and that it was fairly close to what they wanted. But all the rest of the times, it's been very far from what they thought they were doing. And what I think that's crazy
because when you think about, traditional, what somebody would say, like traditional financial planning and the value of this, abundance and impact map as the start of thinking about 100 years of family architecture, is You put so much work into meeting with the attorneys and things like that to then find out that all the work that you did wasn't pointing, you go back to those unintended consequences, was not pointing you in the direction that you thought it was pointing you in. What have you found from families who went through this, are in that 80 to 90% who go, man, that's not what I thought. When they get the clarity of, oh my goodness, this is not where I thought I wanted it to go, but we've got someone who can help us and now has heard us and helped point us in the right direction. What kind of reaction do you hear from families like that?
Yeah, they're thankful. They're excited though to see as we then go through and we get a plan in place that does accomplish everything. They're like, it's relief, it's peace. A lot of times they're excited about it because there's things that they weren't sure they could do. And when you run a cash flow and you show like a projection for your lifetime, like, oh, we can do these things we wanted to do, but we didn't know we could do. Yeah. And so there's oftentimes even some joy that comes with it.
Dani, is this just, I mean, we've been talking about this map and talked a lot about legal documents and things like that. I mean, is this map just looking at the financial and the legal side? I mean, what is it? What all is getting covered inside of this whole process?
Yeah, so we also look at the family structure and the family relationships, and we do some surveys where we're asking you questions about where your family sits, and so we do an analysis on the family as well and those relationships. We also look at business and we look at your faith, like how are all these things aligning? Are they aligned? Are they not aligned? And where's the missing alignment there?
So it's really getting to the heart of where we started talking about where the relationship failures, it could expose some of that along with some of the financial gaps as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So talking about that, and the emphasis on the relationships, let's talk a little bit about we keep throwing out this word 100 years. And so many times, I think a lot of planning gets done with the focus on maybe the parent's lifetime, maybe the kid's lifetime. If we're lucky, maybe we bring the grandkids in. But what mistakes are you seeing families make when they're only thinking maybe one or two generations inside of their planning? And I would even call it, what are the unintentional mistakes? Because I think that's the way most people do it. But what's unintentionally happening when they do that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's limiting. It can be limiting. And so you're setting your kids up in a good spot. You're maybe setting your grandkids up, okay. But then what about your grandkids' kids?
Yeah.
And your great-grandchildren. And so sometimes it seems like there's really just missed opportunities for impact in their lives. And as you're building things, one of the things that if you're focusing on this 100-year intention, you're being intentional about each generation, and you're teaching them and you're passing your values down. And as you're passing the values down, like the money can also grow and do some really cool things. And so as you're looking at each generation, you're preparing each one, and the next one should be preparing the next one. And so if you're thinking out 100 years, you're going to set up your family relationships and the dynamics and the governance and the values within your family. You're going to set that up, but then you're also going to set up the financial side of things to pair alongside of that. And so you're missing out on opportunities to create impact in the future generations.
It's really interesting on this standpoint, because I think from an American culture, there seems to be some unspoken resistance to planning long term. But if you went and look at Old Testament Jewish type cultures, if you look at a lot of Asian cultures, it's a very natural thing to say, hey, let's think for, beyond my lifetime and those who are going to come after me. I remember a statement many years ago is like, I want my grandchildren to sit underneath the trees that I plant. And so, but we don't seem to think that way here. What have you seen change inside of families when you've invited them into this conversation of really thinking, 50, 100 type years? What then begins to change about their perspective on all of this?
Yeah, when they start to think more longer term, a lot of times it's giving them I don't know if permission is the right word, because our society just doesn't tend to focus on that. You need to earn it and you need to work hard, and yes, you can earn and work hard, but you can also still pass on inheritance and legacy and intention for a lot longer than what our culture tends to focus on. And
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, so when we give them permission and ask the questions, a lot of times they get excited about it. But what's crazy is I've seen other advisors or attorneys say, "Oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go beyond your children or your grandchildren's generation." And that actually happened to a client of ours, and the attorney convinced them that they did not want to go, and their desire in their heart was to provide Christian education for generations of their family. And when the document was finally done, it ended at the grandchildren. And so it was like the attorney took away the vision that this person had, and really the desire for the 100 years, and even beyond that, it could have been for this family. And so it's hard. We're kind of going countercultural with
Yep.
the culture and with other advisors at times.
Well, I think one of the things that's important that you've emphasized here, but I want you to speak into as well. I mean, if you're going 100 years, what are the things that separate those families? We talked about only 10% of families succeed going more than 3 generations. What are the things that you've seen that separate those families from those that fail, even though they're trying?
Yeah, I think one of the things that separate it is just the intentionality. Like we've got a family, we serve one portion of a very large family that's in like 5th or 6th generation wealth right now. Yep. And the one thing that I've seen recently from that family is whenever they transition the ownership to the next generation, and the previous generation, which is still alive, trusts them to run it and to do it, they thrive. And so it's passing down and giving ownership and intentionality to lead. And that's where I think the next generation then can thrive with it. And if you don't pass down or you try to control too much, it's not gonna end well.
So this is more of a values and vision, casting vision piece that can go beyond a family than simply just financial documents or even like written governance.
Yeah. It really is. Mm-hmm.
That's powerful. So in thinking about 100 years or maybe even 20 or 30 years, conversations are sometimes hard. Thinking about different, children who are at different maturity levels is hard. What do you see that tends to come up that needs to be navigated when you hit a hard situation?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is communicating about it. And so trying to figure it out all on your own is really hard. And so bringing in advisors and things, and if we don't know the answer, I go get someone who does know the answer. And so I think it's in collaboration and bringing together the right people that can help support you in the hard decision or the hard thing that you're having to navigate. Trying to do anything by yourself is always hard. We're better when we work together.
So let's imagine you're in a family situation where the family feels stuck. So what advice, what's your starting point to helping them begin to at least try to get unstuck? I mean, I would imagine, and in my past, before I really understood how we could do this better, I probably would have run out of the room and been like, I'll let somebody else deal with that. But how do you begin to kind of lean into that and help a family in that space?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things we do is we ask a lot of questions and try to just be curious about why things are stuck or what people are feeling or where things maybe have gone awry, not focusing on addressing the past and what maybe is causing the stuckness,
yeah.
But then not dwelling on that, but looking at what's the best path forward to get unstuck. And so I think that can that can make a big difference. And we have a great team. Taya is amazing at those conversations and knowing the right questions to ask, and then just working together on our team, working together with the family to ask questions and help them get unstuck.
What my experience and then my observation, but you get to work in this every single day, is that the greatest place of stuck typically happens when people feel unheard. Mm-hmm. You were talking about communication, but I think communication is like this surface level, but it even goes deeper to this, like people just feel unheard. Could you speak directly to that piece? Because I feel like I've seen you guys get breakthrough when voices, there's a term Taya likes to use. You give them a voice, not a vote. Mm-hmm. But the voice really matters.
Yeah. I think a lot of times this tends to happen. Dads tend to be not as, like, they're more, what's the right word? They're the dad. And so you don't argue with dad. You listen to dad. Dad knows what he's talking about. He's right. And sometimes dad doesn't listen to what the kids are saying, or he may hear them, but not understand what they're saying. And so it's just helping, as Taya said, helping our clients to realize, like, their kids' voices are important and they need to be heard. And when a child is heard for maybe the first time in a while, it immediately builds trust. Even if they're saying something hard, but dad hears it, it's a big deal. It brings a lot of movement forward in the relationship and in the family.
So what is, not that there's a secret or a key, but there has to be something, like, how do you navigate the emotions of hard situations versus just like, hey, we need to just create the space for hearing and actually get to some actual solutions, as opposed to letting the emotions drive the whole moment? How do you navigate that?
Prayer? No, it's really just setting. What we like to do is just set the tone ahead of time. We coach mom and dad before going into a situation like that and prepare them for it. And then when we bring the kids in, we try to have a little bit of conversation with them too. But when we come together as a whole family, and yes, sometimes emotions can get high, and sometimes we let it go. Like, there's times when we just use our discernment and say, like, we let it go, because sometimes things just need to be said, but we don't let it go if it turns to hurtful or accusatory or like the negative. Like, there's a difference between a healthy confrontation and a mean and nasty, I'm yelling at you confrontation. And so those are times when we do have to step in and pause. We take a break. We maybe take a 10-minute break and then come back together and try to figure out where things went awry, and just, again, asking more questions and helping them figure it out and dealing with the emotions, even though it's scary sometimes.
You talk about taking a break. I've seen you guys through, example of even taking, like, we're just take a week off from this.
Yeah.
Yeah. That space sometimes is a powerful healer.
Mm-hmm. And there have been times too, we've done a family meeting and we realized the family is not ready for a family meeting. And so we then changed our focus to, okay, mom and dad, we're going to give you coaching on how to interact and relate to your family, and to work on strengthening those relationships. And in those families, what's really cool is we maybe haven't had another meeting with the whole family together, but we're hearing mom and dad are doing the work. They're investing in the relationships, and relationships are healing. They're growing, they're reconciling, and the family's coming back together.
Wow.
And those are really powerful when those things happen, because, again, we're not the ones facilitating, but we're giving mom and dad the tools they need to be able to have the conversations that they need to have.
So, I mean, this is all happening, like we said, like in this 100-year family architecture process, this is happening. But I just want to go back to, you're saying that families can discover all of these possibilities through beginning in that abundance and impact map. Like going back to that map, that begins to uncover all these other things we've been talking about of those possibilities.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. No wonder a family feels some relief when they begin to discover that. So let's say that a family isn't quite ready because it's not something you can step into halfway, it doesn't sound like.
No, we need your buy-in. You need to be committed to it. And it's not gonna work well for you or us if you're kind of like halfway.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try this. There's no like I'll give it a shot type of version of that. So if a family's not ready, if they're not committed, but what could someone do today to start just thinking about things that matter or to change their focus to more generational or, of the things you've seen? Like, what could somebody do today?
Really, I think it just get together with your spouse and dream a little bit. Like if we look at our family, what would be like the most ideal situation for them to be in 100 years? Like, what would we love to see? And just begin dreaming together, and then baby steps. So if you're like, what's one thing that you could do today that would get you on the path to whatever that vision is or whatever that dream is that you have for your family or for your finances? What is one little step that you can take? And then take that step, and then what's the next little step that you can take? Don't try to get there today or tomorrow to the 100-year vision, but one step at a time, like taking a little bit at a time.
I'm going to ask you a two-part question because I think it deserves two parts. I want to ask you about the myths that most that people should let go of. But again, I want to do this in two parts.
Okay.
What's the number one myth that the financially minded person in the family needs to let go of?
That I can do it the best and that I have to control everything. I think the control is probably the biggest thing, letting go of the control.
Is that easy to get them to let go of the control?
Oh, no. Definitely not.
On that front, what's been kind of the easiest first step because I would imagine your biggest challenge is they don't realize that they've got that much of a desire to maintain control. So what's the best disruptor you found for creating them letting go of that myth?
Really, it's bringing the spouse in and making sure that they're involved in things and giving the spouse a voice and a vote. Yeah. Like your kids, you want to hear their voice. You don't give them a vote, but your spouse, you do. Like they need to have a voice and a vote. And sometimes spouse may not want to have a vote, but I think it's really good for the control part of things and letting go of that by bringing them in and doing things together instead of making all the decisions by yourself.
What's the number one myth that the more relationship-minded spouse needs to let go of when it comes to thinking about planning?
That he doesn't care anything about the family, or he only cares about money. I think no. Letting go of. I think sometimes the relationship-minded spouse tends to either. I feel like they tend to go one of two ways. They don't want to give anything to their kids because they want to focus on relationship stuff, or they want to give the kids everything because they want to make sure that life is good and easy and it helps them and all of that. And so I think I'm not real sure on the myth, Eric.
I'm going to tell you what I think it is.
Yeah.
And you tell me if you agree.
Yeah.
This is all for them to take care of. My opinion doesn't matter. Oh,
yeah, that's definitely true. That is definitely true.
It is such a struggle, I think, that I've found that I've seen the team try to get both spouses in, and it's so valuable. But that myth of, the counter myth to the one who's financial is, well, they don't want to be involved. This is, I'll just take care of all of this. I feel like those two.
It's my thing.
It becomes this, support thing of where we use each other's myths to not get us as far ahead as we could be.
Yeah, that is very true. And there's so many times when we're explaining the plan, going over the plan for like the fifth time because we do it every year, we update it and we make changes and go through it. Yep. And there's times when one of my favorite things when the relationship minded person goes, I finally get it. Like it's all making sense. And so being able to communicate it in a way where the relationship-minded person understands the finance side is a big deal.
Well, and I think that's one thing you guys, we didn't spend a lot of time, and we're not going to today. If someone's interested, they'll see it even in the abundance and impact map. I feel like you guys do a great job of communicating on a level. It's not just spreadsheets and it's not just pages and pages of numbers, doing visuals and doing things that are written that a lot of times pull in someone who doesn't feel as comfortable in the money-minded space to really help them feel comfortable and feel heard and begin to understand.
Yes. And we work really hard to make sure what we communicate is in everyday, regular English so that it's something that if someone is financially minded or not, can understand and follow what we're doing.
So if every family watching today remembered one thing about planning as we kind of wrap up here today, what would you want them to remember?
Planning can be really fun. It's not something to dread. It's something that can be really exciting and engaging. And as you hope and dream for what 100 years could look like. And then the plan is just helping you take the steps that need to be taken to get to this dream goal of where you want things to go. And so the plan is really, it's an important step, and it can be fun, and we make it easy and manageable for you. But really we want you to be heard and seen, and we want your plan to be what you are desiring and dreaming to accomplish in your family for the next 100 years.
So what I'm hearing you say is that planning is actually empowering.
Yeah. It's very empowering. And it can be joyful.
Yeah. So with that in mind, if planning is empowering, I'll finish with one last question for you today. So what would you say to someone who feels behind or overwhelmed with the entire idea and thought?
Yeah. If you feel behind, you're not. There's always a starting point. And so that's one of the things is you just have to take the first step, and taking the first step will get you further down the road than you were a step before that. And so it's not something to be afraid of. You don't need to be scared about it or worried or feel like you're behind. Call us. We can do an abundance and impact map and see where you're at and help you get to where you need to go.
Yeah. Dani, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. If you're someone who really is thinking about, man, how do I architect capital for our family for 100-year vision? That's what we do. And that's what we partner with families who are passionate about that, who want to be empowered by that. And our 100-year family impact process, family capital architecture process starts with that abundance and impact map. That's where it all begins. And so if that's interesting to you, reach out. Dani, how could they get in touch with us? I think, what is it? info@paradiem.org is the best way to just kind of reach out to us.
Yeah.
So
info at Paradiem. Yeah. info@paradiem.org.
PARADIEM.org. You can reach us, and because this is not about perfection. This is about clarity and certainty, as we said, empowerment, and that abundance and impact map is the starting point to your clarity. And so if you've got any questions for us, reach out to Dani, reach out to me. We're so glad just to be able to share more with you, and we wish you the best and look forward to our next conversation.